So today's video, I'm going to be talking about something basically, now, how do I start? I'm going to be talking about today the idea, the reason why I have sort of a problem, personally, with things like the edgier movie and the edgier video game and the edgier this and this make the blood graphics like 10 times more realistic, and etc., etc. And all these things, just going onward and onward. And I know, this kind of debate has been going on back and forth for a very long time. And it's entirely possible that in some cases I do overreact in some ways. But, I'm not going to deny that. I'm no perfect person here or anything like that. But what I'm basically getting down to is what keeps coming to my mind is the Colosseum in ancient Rome, where you gotta keep upping the ante. You have to keep going further. Once you've made the really edgy movie, then all of a sudden it's normal, like it's been done. You gotta go even further, and you gotta go even further. And the time is eventually going to show up when you can't go any further with CGI and all this stuff and blah blah blah. And I guess like the constant requirement to up the ante eventually is going to become that the fantasy will not be enough anymore. Eventually the fantasy will give way into a reality of it. I mean, look at it. I mean, you got games where people just pull out freaking AK-47s and go on shooting rampages, just gunning down civilians, or that game Postal, just going around murdering people. And at the end of the day, yes, it is simulated. Yes, it is just pixels on a screen kind of thing. But it's conditioning at the same time. I mean, you play it for a while, and then you buy the next one that comes out, and then you buy the next one that comes out, and you get really into it, and you just keep going and going and going and going. And yes, your average person generally is able to separate that from his daily life and their reality and everything like that. But at the end of the day, for some people, this is not deniable, for some people, it already is not enough, and they just skip the intervening stages. But the more advanced that technology becomes, the more advanced the CGI technology and the virtual reality technology become, it's just going to be making it more and more close. I guess that power fantasy of being able to just like gun down a whole bunch of people all at once in the middle of a firefight and be the last one standing or something like that. Or just like these serial killer games and things like that. And the more realistic you make it, the shorter a jump it is from the game to the real thing. Like, here's your real thing, and here's your video game or whatever, movie or something from way back then. And it starts out here, then they make another one, and another one, and you make it constantly more and more and more and more and more realistic, with the virtual reality getting closer and closer and closer, until eventually, you'll notice every single time you up the ante, it's a shorter jump. Up the ante again, it's a shorter jump. Up the ante again, it's a shorter jump, and then sooner or later, it's too close, and the jump is just like right there. And then they overlap, and then it's just like, eventually, the only way to up the ante is to just go out and kill people. And it goes that way with a whole lot of stuff. Music is another big one. It's like, they up the ante, they up the ante, they up the ante, and it's all just, drugs, sex, gangland shit, pardon my French. gangland stuff, shooting people, etc., etc., hating the cops, fight the cops, going on and on and on and on and on. And that's more just like, okay, yeah, you hear it once, and then you hear it again, and then you hear it again, and then you hear it again from like 10,000 different sources, and sooner or later, those 10,000 different sources start to sink in. And now I'm not going to say that, oh, just because that person listened to that music or blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, it does take a person in a particular kind of circumstance that's actually going to lead to, like, violent behavior. But at the end of the day, it conditions people for violent behavior to shorten the distance between the fantasy of violent behavior and the reality of violent behavior. And movies are another example. You know, and I mean, when you look at what we put on TV now, it used to be that you would get like banned from the theaters if you had even a quarter of what we put in our modern action movies and things like that. Like they would not show your movie, like not even that long ago, if you had that kind of stuff in there. And now the blockbusters, just like etc. etc. just keeps going on and on. And again, it's just like it makes it, it starts out very kosher, and then someone wants to make it slightly edgier, and then they make it slightly edgier, and then they make it slightly edgier, and eventually, televised blood sports. I mean, I know that sounds kind of alarmist and stupid, but at the end of the day, the thing that has to be acknowledged is this is not a thing that is far-fetched. It has happened before. I mean, much as we all don't like to admit it, the Colosseum was a thing. And it wasn't the first, nor was it the last. It's just the most well-known form of that. Blood sports have gone on from the dawn of human history, practically. And it would not really take a very large push for them to come back to the center stage, especially with the kind of media that we are all intaking on a rather large dose. And that's not even getting into the fact that there is a ridiculously large amount of satanic imagery in modern music, modern movies, modern video games, just everywhere. And that's another thing. No, I don't think that just because a person listens to a certain kind of music or watches a certain movie or something like that, they're just like automatically going to start worshiping Satan. No. But putting the ideas out there in, just like massive, like you see it everywhere kind of thing, and then, like without even realizing that you're seeing it, and it slowly conditions your mind so that eventually you just go for it. Like when they actually just like bring it straight out and they're like, yeah, so this is Satanism and it's now going to be this really big thing and blah blah blah, and hey, welcome to the club, you're going to worship the devil now. And that's what, I mean, it's, the line will have been moved so close that it'll just be like, yeah, well, it's still basically the same as what I was already doing before. And so people are just going to fall in with it. And it's all about conditioning, really. This is a psyop, as they say, in the parlance of the intelligence agencies and the propaganda agencies. A psyop is psychological operations. It's a hearts and minds campaign. Deals with, sending out just like short bulletins and cartoons and things like that. Study psychology to find out how we can essentially convince the other people to change from their side to our side, kind of thing. And at the end of the day, you can call it, oh, well, this is just what the market forces are dictating and blah, 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 and all this stuff. The point is that it doesn't matter if it's being directed or if it's not. I personally think it is being directed by Satan. I mean, that just seems to be it. The point is, on a macro level, the result is the same, whether this is a deliberate psyop or whether it is just market forces. The result leads to satanic principles being exalted, and the ideas of charity, self-respect, brotherly love, just like spreading essentially the gospel of Christ and the good news, and just spreading peace, love, and just civilized behavior in general becomes, it's too far over there. And then the more, and that's another point, you've got civilized behavior over here, and you have the absolute worst over here that our media is moving closer and closer towards. The closer it goes to here, not only is it a quicker jump to get to there, to the real thing, it's a longer jump for people to go back. And that's important, because eventually, once you're over here, there's no going back. It's too late, because that's when the end kind of shows up. And at that point, let him who is righteous be righteous still, and let him who is filthy be filthy still. And I just pray that you who are watching this video might be able to be finding yourself on the righteous side of things, and that I also might be able to find myself on the righteous side of things, not by our own merit, of course, but through the grace which we have by our Lord Jesus Christ. May God be with you. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Have a blessed day.